Good morning, everyone. It's Lee Henson, president and founder of Agile Dad, and it's time for today's episode of the Daily Stand Up. So, without any further ado, let's get started. It's Friday, so it's our Agile, Not So Agile episode of the Daily Stand Up. And for the last couple of Fridays, it's kind of been, I don't know, a celebration, but tearjerker all at the same time. Today's another high energy Friday. We're about to kick off a wonderful weekend. I hope you have an amazing weekend. And I want to tell you a story because I feel like these stories are really going a long way. This time, the story is about a farmer. So there was a farmer, and this farmer every single day sold a pound of fresh butter to the town's best baker. So obviously, we're going back a couple hundred years here, a few hundred years. So the farmer had some of the best butter in the entire village, and he would sell it to the baker so the baker could make the best bread. And the baker was starting to become, how shall I put it, starting to become concerned because he felt like he wasn't getting a whole pound of butter. So as time progressed, he was still kind to the farmer, but he said, I've got to find a way to weigh out this butter to see if I'm getting the right amount. And sure enough, he went into his bakery. He promptly weighed the butter and discovered he was getting far less than a pound. And he became so angry. He became so angry he was getting less than a pound of butter. They decided he was going to take this to the town and he was going to start notifying all of his people about how he's being cheated and that they shouldn't buy milk from this farmer. I mean, it was a big to do. And it ended up going all the way to the town council. Now, the town council on leadership had a judge, so it was almost like a court setting. And the judge started off and he asked the farmer. The farmer, came to court in the best that he had, but he wasn't dressed real nice. You could tell that he was primitive in many ways. And he asked the farmer, he says, now, what have you been using? Have you been using anything at all to measure the weight of the butter? And the farmer replied, he says, quite honestly, Judge, he says, I have not. He says, I'm primitive. He says, I have not the money to purchase expensive things to do proper measurements. He says, I don't have a proper, scale with the correct weights to do that type of measuring. And the judge says, aha. So if that's the case, then how do you know you're giving a baker a pound of butter? And the farmer replied, quite honestly, Your Honor, he says, I don't. He says, but long before the baker ever started buying his butter from me, I've been buying a 1 pound loaf of bread from him every single day. He says, every day when the baker brings the bread, I tell him how much I appreciate it. He says, but before I go any further, I immediately take the loaf of bread and put it on a scale and carve out the butter to make sure I give him the same exact weight in butter. That way he gets a true pound of butter. Because after all, he is giving me a full pound of bread. Hmm. I think that sometimes in life you get what you give, right? And it's amazing. It talks about not trying to cheat others. And I think that sometimes, even in our journey in life in general, we find times where we're not putting in the right level of effort, or we're discounting or being accusational. I remember I was on an engagement and someone asked me, this person only put in 6.2 hours yesterday. You need to ask them if they want to take the 1.8 as sick time or vacation time. And it startled me because not only did I think about it from a micromanaging perspective, but I thought about it from the perspective of, is this person putting in all that they have so that they can help us to be successful? Or are they not putting in all that they have? And in this case, I would argue that the farmer was doing the best that he could with the tools that he had. And I think that sometimes we need to look at other people and we need to recognize that they aren't trying to shortchange us, that they're doing the best that they can with the tools that they have. And my hope is that this lesson on morality and on honesty can take you to a different place, because it's easy for us to be quick to judge. It's easy for us to be quick to try to say that's not really what happened, right? But I think it's important for us to look at the true moral of the story and understand exactly what's happening. So I hope this episode was good for you. It reminded me of some very good things. I wanted to keep it short and to the point. I want you to have a fantastic and amazing weekend. And until next time, I encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile. Until next time, do take care, and we'll see you on Monday.